Hey there, everybody. Welcome back for what is going to be the 23rd episode of the 120, or well, what was recently renamed Laughter Through Tears, the 120 podcast. I am your host, Jackie Duda. I'm a septic shock survivor. I also have hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, POTS, Crohn's disease, osteoporosis, you name it. I've been disabled now for over a year or over a decade. And sorry, guys, I just can't talk today. But anyway, I am so happy to see you all here. And I'm really happy to have as my guest today, Sandra Klyer. And she is also a septic shock survivor. And not only that, she's a registered nurse. She is an author. She has also survived sepsis 15 times. Yes, we're going to get into that. She is a 15-time sepsis survivor. Her life was forever changed after septic shock nearly claimed her life on December 19th, 2013. And then her repeated battles with sepsis and the long-term disabilities that followed and the emotional toll of her recovery inspired her to become a fierce advocate for survivors worldwide. Sandra also is an advocate with Sepsis Alliance, the organization we always talk about here on the podcast. And today, Sandra serves as a facilitator for the Sepsis Alliance Connect program. I've mentioned that on here before. A lot of you know that that's a place where survivors and caretakers and family members who've lost a loved one can go to connect online with other peers or people who have experienced the same thing as they have. And Sandra is a great facilitator of the support groups. She leads the support groups. She educates healthcare professionals, and she raises awareness for post-sepsis syndrome and the challenges that survivors face long after their discharge. Her compassion, honesty, and wisdom have made her into a very trusted voice in the sepsis community. And we are going to get to that author part as well, because she has written a book. If you have survived sepsis, I highly recommend that you download it or buy it. And we'll talk all about that later on as to how you can get your hands on this wonderful book that Sandra has written. Sandra, thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you for having me on. And I just want to thank you for this podcast. You do have an idea how much it helps everyone. Boy, I wish this was around 12 years ago when I had my sepsis. It took me a year before I was finally able to reach out and find help. And that year was miserable, just absolutely miserable. So thank you.
Yes, Sandra, it sounds like we have a lot of things in common too to share.
Yes.
Because my first year after surviving, I was a mess. I was an absolute mess. Anyway, so I am feeling like such a scattered. This is part of sepsis recovery, by the way, you guys, and it's part of post-sepsis syndrome. We have these brain glitches. We have cognitive things going on up here. So I always got to have my little cheat sheet here in front of me to remind me of all my questions. But anyway, I want to start, of course, with the most obvious one. Sandra, how did you get involved with sepsis? Like, how did the saga all begin?
It started out as a normal day. We had closed on some property that we were selling. And so we did that, and then we grabbed a cheeseburger on the way home. I ate it. I felt fine for a while. And then I started feeling very nauseous. And as the day progressed, the more nauseous I became. And, like you're kind of getting the stomach bug. And so I just kind of laid around, didn't feel very good. And then the dry heaves started. And you know how when you throw up, you get some relief. That achy feeling in your stomach, you get relief. Yeah. I wasn't getting relief. So the vomiting episodes were getting closer together. And then I had this very intense pain in the right upper quadrant of my stomach. And it just was reaching out and grabbing me. So this went on for several hours, and then I finally realized I was beyond the point of where I could even walk anywhere. So I knew I needed to go to the emergency room, but I couldn't move. The pain was too intense. So we called an ambulance. That was an experience. The EMT that came, he thought I had the flu. And so he was berating me because I would not get up and get myself on the gurney. So I finally crawled over to the cot and pulled myself up. And they took me to the hospital and they gave me pain medication, which didn't really help, and some anti-nausea medication. And they wanted to do a CAT scan. Well, I'm allergic to the dye, the IV dye. So they wanted
I
me
am too.
so they wanted me to drink 2 cups of the contrast. Well, I was throwing up.
And you're vomiting.
Yes, I'm throwing up.
Oh my God.
So I got 1 cup down and they were finally able to go ahead and take me down for a CAT scan. Well, it was inconclusive. And I'll tell you why. Back in 2002, I had a gastric bypass. And so my anatomy is not like everyone else's. So they weren't able to see, they could see that the barium stopped, but they couldn't see what was going on. They thought maybe it was just an obstruction, a bowel obstruction. They weren't quite sure. So they finally admitted me to the floor, and I laid there and I crashed for 24 hours before the surgeon was finally able to come up and evaluate me. By the time they took me down to surgery, I had no blood pressure. None. I was so cognitively out of it. I was aware that my family was around me, but I was in my own little world. If someone talked to me, I could answer them, but I just really wasn't aware of anything else. As they were getting ready to take me to the OR, they told me, I heard them yell out lab values, and my lactic acid value was 7.4, which is extremely high.
I was going to say, tell our audience what's a normal range.
I don't recall what normal is. Do you know right offhand?
Offhand, it might be a 2 or a 3.
Right.
But a 7 is high.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's very high.
Yeah. Fact check us, audience. If you find out what it is, drop it in the comments.
Exactly. I should know that, but I don't have that right offhand. So in my mind, I'm thinking, they can't get my blood pressure. My lactic acid is extremely high. The nurses are crying. My daughters are crying. My oldest daughter's an RN. And I thought, I may not make it. So I asked the surgeon, he was still in the hallway. I said, am I going to die? And he says, all I can tell you is being in the OR is the safest place for you right now. So, of course, I woke up on a ventilator and I didn't know. I woke up, my family was standing around me and they were holding my hands, and my husband says, can you squeeze my hand? I couldn't squeeze his hand. So, I couldn't move, and I didn't know what was going on. They didn't explain to me that I was on a ventilator. So we had just walked.
Wait. You didn't know you were intubated?
No.
I knew.
No.
It was driving me insane because you can't move.
No, you can't.
They give you, they put paralytic drugs in you so that you can, because you're
Right.
going to yank that thing right out.
Right.
Oh my God, Sandra. Oh
Right.
my God.
So my husband and I had just watched a TV program not too long ago before that, where the patient couldn't communicate except for eye blinks. So I was trying to blink at him to get him to understand that I couldn't talk or anything like that. And he didn't get it at all. So they had me in a medically induced coma for just 24 hours, but I was on the ventilator for 4 days. So for 3 days, I was awake on the ventilator, and that was a totally different experience. I couldn't talk, so they had
With your
to,
whiteboard?
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
I was trying to spell out the letters, and
And you can't.
yeah, and finally my male nurse, he says, "Well, let me get you something to write on." So he gets me paper and a pencil, and that's hard, that's hard to do too. So, I finally wrote whiteboard, and he found one for me. So that was an experience. The extubation was horrible. I don't know about yours, Jackie. Do you remember yours?
I do, and you know what? I must be a sicko because it felt satisfying for them to finally pull it out of my throat because that really was bugging me.
Yeah.
I did not like that. How about
Well,
you?
when they were weaning me off, um, they lower the sedation, and you're trying to breathe around this tube in your throat. And I kept gagging on it. So I don't know how long they left me like that. It seemed like it was forever, but it probably wasn't that long. But I kept having to try to control my breathing so I wouldn't gag on this tube. And they weren't even in the room with me. So, um, yeah, when they actually pulled it out, it was great. But the weaning process was horrible.
Yeah, because you kind of feel like you're suffocating.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was in ICU for right after they extubated me. I I was probably in there for another half a day, and then they transferred me to the regular floor. Which that's a culture shock. You're used to having someone there one on one with you, um, your every want and need taken care of, and then you're left on the floor where they totally ignore you. You know,
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
yeah. So
Oh
I
my
was in the hospital
goodness.
for 8 days. Nobody ever, I had a perforated bowel, by the way. Um,
You
Nobody ever,
too. You
yes,
also had the perforated bowel.
yes,
Yeah. I
yes,
remember reading your story and it was, yeah,
yeah.
so similar.
So nobody ever mentioned sepsis. Nobody ever mentioned septic shock. Nobody mentioned recovery period. My surgeon did tell me that I would not feel well for about the first 6 months. But that's all he said. You know, that can mean a lot of things.
And they were like, see ya, you're
Right.
discharged. You're good.
So I couldn't even get out of bed by myself when I was discharged.
Yeah.
So I requested a hospital bed to be delivered to the house so I could at least have bed rails to get myself out of bed. So for the
Sandra, did they give you an option to go to inpatient rehab?
nope, nope,
Is that they did send me to inpatient rehab because I couldn't walk.
yeah. Well, I
I
could
can't
walk with a walker,
believe
but
they,
I couldn't get out of bed.
yeah.
So
Oh, they
no,
should have sent you to
they sent me
inpatient
home with
rehab.
physical therapy, but no, no rehab.
Wow. I'm sorry.
So the first month was very challenging. Just to get out of bed and to get up and brush your teeth and wash your face takes hours. And by that time, you're tired and you need to lay back down again. So that was my first experience. And I was depressed. I was used to working. Um, I was depressed. I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't know why I wasn't bouncing back like I had in my previous surgeries. Um, I was anxious. I didn't know what was going on. And dummy me, it took me a year before I finally started nosing around on the internet. And that's when I found Sepsis Alliance. And it made total sense after that.
You and me both.
Yeah.
When I found Sepsis Alliance, it turned my brain around when I met other survivors.
Right. Right. So I knew I had PTSD. And so I sought counseling. I thought, okay, there's got to be counselors around that deal with PTSD. But sadly, in the Kansas City area, which is where I'm close to, the only PTSD therapists were surrounding the VA. If you weren't a veteran, you don't access those services. So I
So
just,
you couldn't even find counselors either.
no. So I finally just picked someone and just went to see him because I was desperate at that point.
Yeah.
And he
I
turned
think
it,
that should be like a standard when you discharge a sepsis patient, that you should make sure their mental health, there's a connection and somewhere for them to go and talk to somebody.
right. Oh, I agree. I agree. And it took a while, and I realized that my life wasn't over, and I may not be the person that I was before, but that didn't mean I didn't still have purpose in my life. So, once I realized that, then I could turn the page and start moving forward.
That's the thing. I think Sepsis Alliance gave us the purpose, really.
I do too.
Yeah. Because we realized that, like you've done by speaking and facilitating the support groups and now writing your book, you are providing something that survivors desperately need.
Right.
Desperately, because you have to know. I felt totally alone
Yes.
for a year, like you said, until I found Sepsis Alliance. I felt alone. I cried every day. My life was over. I felt, in some ways, I wanted it to be over because the recovery was hell.
Right.
And I really didn't think I would be able to get through that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I tell people when I mention advocacy, they don't know where to start. And I tell them, just start by telling your story. When you start telling your story, you're going to find out that there's other people that have survived sepsis too. And I've been getting my nails done for years at this salon, for years. And it took when I was writing my book, and this one nail tech was doing my nails. I usually have my regular person, but she was out that day. She had had sepsis too. So once we found out that we both had had sepsis, we started talking. Of course, there was a whole salon full of women there. And so you never know when you're going to reach someone that desperately needs help, just by telling your story.
And as an RN, you're used to helping. That's your profession.
Right. Right.
And I think what you've done is amazing. And, you are helping people. We don't always realize that. My podcast that I had just recorded a couple of weeks ago, another RN who works for a biotech firm, read this incredible script at the end. It was just a short little passage, but it was sort of like, the gist was you never know who you help, but it's evidenced in the chairs that aren't empty at someone's dinner table, or people that are there to see kids graduate. It's hard to gauge or know who you helped. I had a couple of people come and tell me, because they developed sepsis after hearing my story, they knew what to do. But for the most part, you don't know.
No.
You just know that you're helping people, but it's not like a tangible thing you can see.
Right. That's exactly right.
Now, you also went on to be an overachiever when it came to sepsis because you went and you developed it 14 more times.
Yeah.
I'm serious, people. She's had it 15 times.
Yes.
Like, has it been every time you've developed an infection, it's turned to sepsis? Like, how did that play out?
Usually, the second time I had sepsis was 2 years after my first episode. I had a portacath put in my chest. I have I have GI problems. I have short bowel syndrome, and I have gastroparesis. So I was unable to eat. So when I would eat, I would get a bowel obstruction. And when I went into septic shock the first time, um, I was pretty much on a liquid diet. So after my surgery, I still was not able to eat and was on a liquid diet, and I was losing weight and getting sicker. So they decided to put me on TPN, which is total parenteral nutrition being fed through your veins. So they put a portacath in my chest, and home health came and they did all the education. They would access it for me. My doctor told me when it was put in, he says it's not a matter of if you'll get sepsis, it's a matter of when you'll get sepsis because it's that common. 30 days, almost exactly, when I had the portacath put in, I had sepsis. And so I, of course, went to the hospital. I knew the signs this time. So I went to the hospital, my IV antibiotics, got that cleared up. And it was several months later, and the infection came back. Different bug this time, different bacteria. So there was three times just right there. I mean, 3 times within 2 years.
Boom, boom, boom. Because
Yes.
first did they remove part of your colon from the perforation, the first
Small bowel.
surgery?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Oh, it was a small bowel,
Small
not a
bowel.
colon perf.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And then you have the short bowel syndrome and having the cath in. This is something I also try to educate, like my people in the Ehlers-Danlos Society community. A lot of people with Ehlers-Danlos, as I'm sure you know, being a nurse,
Yes.
have portacaths, or
Yes.
they have to use urinary catheters or something, but they're using a medical device that
Right.
it can introduce bacteria to the inside the body, and that's how you develop sepsis the second time, and then yet again the third time, but a
Correct.
different bacteria.
Correct.
Wow,
So,
that's an ordeal.
yeah. So at first, I would get sepsis every 2 years because after that, let's see, that would be 2015. Then it was 2017 before I had another infection in my port. Um, and in this time, like they had to remove the port the first time in 2015. They had to remove the port and put it back in. So in 2017, when I got infection again, they had to remove the port and then replace it before I left. So then it got to where I would have it every year. And then I would get it 2 or 3 times a year. So it's like we were on this cycle and I couldn't break it. So finally in 2022, I got a fungal infection in my port. And
Oh,
they had,
those can be nasty.
yes. So we got it cleared up. They had to take it out. I had a PICC line. And then we put the port back in. I went 3 years without having sepsis. I thought I've turned the corner. Yes, yes. And then last January, February 2025, the norovirus went through our family. My husband got it, and he had the diarrhea and a fever. Then my mom got it. She lived with us at the time. She had the diarrhea and the fever. And then I got it. I had vomiting and diarrhea and a fever, low grade fever. So I thought, I'm following everybody else. This is just normal. Mine wasn't normal. My fever went away and then it came right back again. And this time I wasn't aware that I was doing this, but of course my cognitive function just totally went out the window. I thought I was taking care of myself, and I wasn't taking care of myself. And it came to head in the middle of the night. It was midnight, and I was still trying to flush my port, and I couldn't get it done. And my husband, when he gets frustrated, he calls my daughter, the RN. And so she said, I've had it. I've had it. She picked up the phone, her husband's phone, and called 911 and called the ambulance. And I was mad at her. I'm not going to
Yeah.
the hospital. I don't need to go, you know, but I need
And you're not even in your right mind at this
no,
point. So it's like
no.
no one is listening to you and they're just like, yeah, no, we're calling
Yeah,
911.
yeah.
Oh my
So
goodness.
back to the hospital I went. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Do the doctors know why your body is doing this? Like and you're right, like it almost does sound like it's cyclical, that
yes,
every time there's any little bug or germ or anything that can give you an infection, sepsis descends quite quickly.
right. They don't know. All of my blood work comes back that my immune system is healthy, but the infectious disease doctor said for some reason people are just more susceptible to infections. And I think once you get ran down, and I think just like you have muscle memory, I think you have, I don't know what it's called, memory.
Infection memory.
Yes. And then
Oh
so
no.
it's like it doesn't even start in my port anymore. The last three infections that I've had, um, well, I guess I had one other one, started like from a UTI. The one I had in November of last year over Thanksgiving was from cellulitis in my ankle. And it went to sepsis. January of this year, I had septic shock from a urinary tract infection. And that one hit very quickly. I had symptoms on Saturday. I had the burning and urgency, needed to urinate. And by Sunday, I felt much better. Monday came, I had a doctor's appointment with my nephrologist, my kidney doctor, as a matter of fact. And I was feeling fine by then, so I didn't, I mentioned to them that I thought I had one, but I didn't get it tested. Monday night, 8 o'clock, the fever started and then the rigors set in. And I was shaking so hard that my muscles were aching.
Yeah. And like your teeth start clanging and
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So you felt bad, then you felt better, and
Yes.
then it came on you like a freight train, it sounds like.
Yes. And it happens that quickly. I'll start feeling chilled, and I'll take my temperature, and it's usually 99, something like that at first. And then the rigor set in within 10 minutes, and my temperature shoots up to 102, 103. So I keep my bags packed. and we just
You have a go bag.
yes, yes.
Yeah, a
So
sepsis go bag.
we just grab them and go. We don't even give it a second thought. We just go.
I mean, I know they say sepsis survivors are more likely to develop sepsis, so we're already at higher risk, but well, you really have. You
Right.
have overachieved. Like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's incredible. And especially with this UTI, because it sounds like it was so misleading. And I think our audience here should understand that too, that if there's any doubt, any question, any fever, or these symptoms, make sure you run through everything thoroughly, get medical attention right
Yes.
away.
And I even keep those test strips with me.
Yeah.
I learned I've had silent UTIs before. Matter of fact, and I had sepsis from a silent UTI. So I have those test strips to test my urine for infection. And I recommend that people keep those on hand, especially
Yeah.
if you've had a UTI.
Yeah. Or yeah, if you've had UTIs or you tend to get a lot, or also like if you self-cath or
Yes,
anything, it's a good idea to keep those test strips, I'll bet.
absolutely.
That's incredible. And
Yes.
how does your, like, I can't imagine what that's like to have these repeated infections and repeated sepsis. When you had the septic shock this January from the UTI, I assume you were hospitalized again right
Yes.
away
Yes.
and started the IV antibiotics and
Yes.
the fluids. They didn't have to do another surgery or anything, did they?
No, no,
Thank
no.
goodness.
No, and they always start you on a broad spectrum antibiotic. They start two usually. They do a broad spectrum antibiotic and then they do one that's a little more targeted to like they knew I had a UTI, so they'll do one that usually covers most UTIs. Well, the culture results came back and neither of the antibiotics were effective. So they had to start me on a third antibiotic before I would finally start healing. I was in ICU for a week and I was in the hospital for 11 days this time.
I'm so sorry. That's almost too much to wrap one's brain around and imagine being that sick that many times.
Yeah. It makes it, we don't travel anymore. We used to travel. I don't dare do that because I've been in the hospital out of town and that was a miserable experience. You know, I want to be home. I want to be home with my doctors around my family.
Absolutely.
You know, it just changes your life.
Turns it upside down.
It does. It does. But the one good thing, and listeners, please listen. If you have frequent antibiotics, there is a medication that is out there now. It's called methanamine, and it it's not an antibiotic, it's an antiseptic. And you take it on a prophylactic basis and it helps prevent UTIs. So I was started on that this January. So
Is that that's a brand new medication?
I think it's new. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't heard of that. And that would also help because I imagine someone who's had sepsis as many times as you have had, that antimicrobial resistance has got to be on your radar and your doctor's radar. Like, that's got to be a huge concern.
Yes. Well, not only that, but allergies. I'm now allergic to two highly potent antibiotics. I can't do vancomycin and I can't do
Oh
Zosyn
no.
anymore.
And that's like the number one, that's the number one thing in their toolkit. They pull out that vancomycin to treat. Did you develop that allergy because you've had it so many times, or?
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's not a true allergy. It's, if you heard of red man syndrome,
Yes.
it's very common with vancomycin. Well, I don't get red man syndrome, or I suppose it is red man syndrome, but I'll get welts that are like this big on my
And they're
body.
red, right? Like
Yes,
red and
they
blotchy?
look like a huge hive.
Yes.
Yeah. Usually with red man syndrome, you just get like you know how you get real red when you blush?
Yeah.
It'll turn your skin red like that. But I get these welts, these huge welts. So they can't use that on me anymore. And with the Zosyn, um, they've used that. Matter of fact, they used that last February. And then the very next time they tried it, I couldn't. I just started burning from the very minute they infused it. My hands started burning, my lips and mouth started burning, and it just went all the way down to my feet. Just that quick.
That's horrible. I mean, yeah. And vancomycin it's like one of the number one treatments, antibiotic treatments that they use. But
Right.
I mean, it's almost like toxic. It's like chemo, but for
Yes,
sepsis.
that's exactly
It's
right.
very, very strong. Yeah. And I want to actually, because now we're kind of on this train of thought, I'm going to jump ahead just slightly in my questions that have doctors taken extra steps now so that you won't develop these infections, and like, has your nursing career helped you in recognizing these infections sooner? Although it sounds like, I mean, the first one, you're like all of us, you have no clue what's going on, and
Right.
you don't know that it's, even being an RN, it's, so do your doctors take extra steps now to prevent infection? Like, or what are they, besides the, what was that,
Methanamine.
methanamine
Yeah.
to prevent the UTIs? That's one way.
Well,
Um,
for several years I was on Bactrim DS to
okay.
well, and it wasn't for urinary symptoms. Let me tell you what can happen as a side effect of sepsis. So in 2021, I had sepsis in July. About the end of September, October, I started having back pain. And I thought, I've done something, I've pulled a muscle in my back. And, the rule of thumb is it's going to get better in about 6 weeks. So just, take care of yourself, you know. Well, it didn't get better. It continued to get worse. So come November, I'm in excruciating pain. And, I never want to go to the hospital. And even when I should, sometimes I don't want to go.
Same.
So
Yeah,
my
I hear you.
my birthday is November 18th. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to wait till after my birthday and then I'm going to go get some x-rays. So on November 19th, we go to urgent care for x-rays. And not even 5 minutes after I have these x-rays done, the radiologist is called and he says, go to the emergency room now. Don't go home first, go now. I had osteomyelitis, discitis, and burst fractures of T9 and T10 that compressed my spinal cord. So that bacteria that I had had in July migrated to my back, and so it got in my discs, my vertebrae, and it just ate it up. So
So you have fractures too, as well.
yes, Yes.
Yeah.
So I knew I had osteopenia, but in my back I have osteoporosis. And they said if I would have jumped or had any sudden movement, I would have been paralyzed. If I would have waited a couple more days to go in, I would have been dead from the infection. So after that surgery, and they had to put hardware in because of my history, they put me on the Spectrum DS as a prophylactic.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you have rods and pins and everything in your back.
Yes.
You had mentioned that in the email, and I was like, oh my God. Yeah. I mean,
Yes.
that's a lot. That's a lot for one person to bear. And then your spine. And, I having osteoporosis as well. When I speak about it to people, I always tell them, make sure you pay attention because you only get one spine.
That's right.
They can't do spine transplants yet. So you
No,
only get one.
they can't. And, I have, we have spoken before, I have kyphosis. And
Yes.
I can't even sit up straight because
Oh,
I'm so
Sandra.
bent over. And then my neck hurts because I'm trying to hold my head up.
Yeah.
And, it's amazing. Sepsis is the gift that just keeps on giving,
Hmm.
not in a good
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. And where I say we carry baggage, and
Yeah,
it's really heavy baggage.
it is. Yes.
I can see why all this drove you to write this book. And it's cathartic, I think. As a journalist, I've written articles about it. Hopefully I'll write my own book one day. But I mean, when
Yes.
you write a book, you're really pouring all of this out
Right.
and getting it out there. But it helps you, and I really believe, like I said, that it helps other readers. Can you tell, like, how were you first inspired with all this health stuff going on and everything that you're doing? Like, how obviously you do suffer from post sepsis syndrome, right? I mean, you've spoken about that in the beginning too. Um, is that what inspired you, or was it just this whole ordeal, all of it, the 15-time sepsis
Well,
champ is the wrong word, but you know what I mean?
yes,
Yeah.
it's all of that. It started when my husband wrote a book. He is a business broker, and he wrote a book for his business. And I thought, well, why can't I write a book about my experience? And
Exactly.
we all know as a sepsis survivor that if we would have been given information about sepsis and what to expect with post sepsis syndrome, how our lives would have been so much better. So I wanted to start off telling my story, and then I thought, well, it needs to be educational too.
Of
So
course.
that's that's how it all started. Um,
Before I forget, because I know if we start talking about the book, I'm going to forget
I
to tell people how to get it. And do you have a copy of it there with you? Like, what's the
do.
title?
It
Let's
is
show it off here. Woo!
Sepsis Warrior,
Sepsis Warrior.
Hope and
And
Healing After Surviving Sepsis 13 Times. Now,
yep.
as I was writing the book, um, of course, I was at 13 as I'm writing the book.
Yeah.
And so as it was going to press last November, that's when I had number 14. So that's in the epilogue. And then
I
of
was
course
going to ask if you squeezed those in there.
I
Yeah.
did. I sure did.
You're so good, Sandra. You're so
And
good.
and then
Oh,
I need to put on my bio that I've had it 15 times now. But it's available on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, anywhere you buy books, it's available.
digital and in copy. And yes, I
Yes.
am getting, I have to get my digital copy soon.
Yes.
I asked Sandra to come on the podcast and I realized I went, oh my God, I'm not going to have enough time to read the book. But I am getting I'm going to get my digital copy and you can listen to it in the car. You can, the readable copy, right? The one where it's read or,
No, it's not available. It's not an
oh, okay.
audiobook yet, but it will be.
Okay. Okay,
Um,
good. It will be. Yes.
but it came out as the bestseller on the day it came out March 5th, and it was the
Okay.
bestseller. So I'm really happy about that. Um, yeah, it's exciting.
Congratulations. That is such a milestone. And it is truly, you are a sepsis warrior.
Thank
I
you.
I know of no one yet who I've seen. I know some repeat offenders, I call them, with sepsis, but you are definitely you're the tippy top there, girl. I'll tell you. That's totally amazing. And so you just when did you start? Like when did you start the book?
I started about 2 years ago.
Okay.
It took me a while to get started. It's not easy when you start thinking about your story and putting it down on paper. You have to deal with a lot of those emotions all over again. And
Reprocess, yeah.
yes, so it wasn't easy. Um, and then, in the beginning, there's some statistics about sepsis and things like that. I
Mhm.
have a hard time with that stuff. It's dry.
Well, the numbers, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Me
important.
too.
It's important. But
Yeah.
once I got past that part, the rest of it was easy. And now that it's done, I go back and I think, oh, I wish I would have done more with that. I wish I would have expanded more. And, you know, so
Writers always do that. I was taught that a long time ago in college, and I had this professor who said, you'll see somebody will write something, an author, a well-known author, they'll put some Pulitzer Prize winning article out there, and when they're interviewed about it, they always say, yeah, but you know what, I would like to go back and change that.
yeah,
And I feel that way too, like when I write my articles and I go over them and over them, and you know, yeah, I've started my book, but articles for me are easier. They are a
oh,
lot easier
sure.
because, 1,000 words, 2,000 words, whatever, you're in, you're out, and you're done
Right,
for then, for
right.
now. But writing a book, and how many pages is it?
It is, let me see. It's very short. It's a very easy read. 123 pages.
There we go.
So
There we
it's
go.
real easy to sit down and read it in one setting.
Yeah.
It's
And I'm going to have all the links here too in the description box, the
okay.
Amazon link, Barnes and Noble link, and all of that so that, everybody who's listening or watching can get their copy. And I highly recommend, especially if you are a sepsis survivor, you've got to read this book. You've got to read it. What can readers expect to find in it? I know you mentioned you have the stats in the beginning but
Yes.
then you kind of get through that and what can they expect to find?
There is a little of everything in there. I go into detail about the symptoms that I have leading up to sepsis in several different episodes. Um, I have my ICU experience and some of the things that I went through in ICU. Um, I have post sepsis syndrome, the symptoms that I have gone through, um, counseling. Of course, I mentioned Sepsis Alliance. And of course, our dear friend Megan Jones wrote the foreword to the book. She's the community educator for Sepsis Alliance Connect.
And we love Megan. I love working with her.
She is
She's
wonderful.
fabulous.
Yes, she
Yeah.
is. Yes. Um, I mentioned my family's reaction, their thoughts, what they were feeling. Um, I have I have things in there for healthcare professionals, for caregivers, It's not just for survivors. Um, and then I have a section on advocacy. That's how I finish it.
Is that where Dawn's story is? And you have
I
Dawn's
do.
story, Dawn, who I also had on the podcast. So you have his
Right.
story in there,
I
right?
have his story. Daryl Rakes from City
Okay.
Alliance. He's in there.
Daryl, yeah.
Yes. Norma Sandor. I don't know if you know her or not.
Norma,
Yeah.
yes. These are all so familiar from
Yes.
our little groups. Yeah.
Yes. Myrna's right
Myrna,
in there.
yeah.
Yeah. Linda. She's
Linda,
from Canada. She's in
yes.
there. So I just have little snippets of other people's stories too, just so there's different versions of people's sepsis, because they're all
I
different.
think that was a great idea to include that too,
Yeah,
so that you get multiple points of view and, with yours and everything. And I think that's going to be so helpful to readers.
I think so because, our even though we are all in the same boat, it all starts differently for all of us. So I just wanted other people's perspective on how it can start.
Well, Sandra, I am so excited to have you on here today. And especially, like I said, when I heard about your book, and I was like, oh, okay, we got to get this out there. We got to get this in people's hands. Um, as a sepsis survivor 15 times over and a registered nurse, and all of the things that you are, all of the wonderful things, it's been so delightful to talk to you about a not delightful subject, of course. But you as a person, it's just been it's been a great experience for me to get to talk to you, and you're another survivor. So,
Now,
there's always that attraction too there.
yes, and you and I have corresponded for quite some time, and some
Mhm.
of our experiences have been so much the same. I mean, I contacted you about your teeth issue, you know,
Yes.
several
Yeah,
years ago.
sepsis kills
Yeah.
your teeth too,
Yes,
people. It does. Yeah.
yes, it does.
Your teeth, and you lose your hair and everything else, and it's just
Yeah.
awful. Um, what would you like our listeners and our viewers to remember the most about sepsis?
Well, what I want you to remember the most is just the signs of sepsis. And if you recognize the signs, please go to the emergency room. Don't call your physician. Don't wait. Don't take Tylenol to see if your fever's going to go away. Go to the emergency room. The worst they can do is send you home. There's no shame in that. But the life you could be saving is your own.
Indeed. Indeed. Sandra, you're beautiful. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being here and talking to me today. I do want to remind our listeners and our viewers, this podcast is for information and entertainment only, so don't take this as medical advice. And do follow the advice, though, when we say call 911 if you're sick, if you think you have sepsis, if you have, any kind of medical emergency. Don't rely on this. Rely on 911. Call 911 immediately.
Yes.
And Sandra, thank you again. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for listening and for watching. And don't forget to buy Sandra's book. And the one last little announcement I want to put out here. There is a petition to bring post-sepsis syndrome to the attention of WHO, the World Health Organization. I am going to drop that link to that petition on change.org. The lady who started it is a survivor I've had on the podcast in New Zealand, and she has almost 5,000 signatures now. When she gets to 5,000, to the WHO she is going. So there's going to be lots of great links. Check my description box, the book, the petition, information on sepsis, and of course, our wonderful, wonderful Sepsis Alliance.
Yes.
So Thank you all. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Jackie.